welcome again to another episode of America on Trial, where we talk about current issues in law, politics, and public policy. And tonight is an issue that's on everyone's mind. 2024, Trump or DeSantis? Now, before I ask the panelists a question, let me just introduce him. Jeff is an assistant attorney general of Utah. Guidry Stansonite is an immigration attorney from Miami, Florida. And Fernando Leal is an attorney in New York. Let me get straight to the point here. Okay? When Trump was president, we had a great economy. We had a strong border. We didn't have inflation. We had the lowest unemployment for Hispanics and African Americans in history. We had 3 justices eminently qualified on the Supreme Court. Under Biden, we've had record inflation. We've had higher taxes. We've had a terrible economy, higher gas prices. So why aren't people going for Trump in 2024? What's the concerns, Guidry?
Well, I think that Trump's personality has a lot to do with it. People are just sick of hearing the same narrative on his behalf. And I think people are starting seeing his egotism, me. And Biden also inherited such as COVID and war in Ukraine that also affected the economy. So I think people are still trying to decide what to do and where to go. We'll see. To be continued.
So, Fernando, what I'm hearing is this. Trump's policies were good, but people just didn't like the fact that Trump said some nasty things on Twitter. You'd think that people would care more about the substance than the style. But then we talk about DeSantis, and there's all this movement behind DeSantis. But isn't DeSantis just a junior varsity version of Trump?
No.
Why?
Because DeSantis doesn't go around saying that if he loses, the election is rigged. DeSantis has kept the state of Florida humming even through COVID. Maybe it's the fact that he's an ex-Navy SEAL, so he understands how to move things along and how to marshal out troops and get things done in times of crisis, let's say a hurricane or COVID. He got, vaccines out and into the population. I mean, he also turned around and let foreigners who came into vacation jump the line and get the vaccine, because that was a way to get tourist dollars into Florida, which is how Florida survives. That's a big chunk of their economy. I think Trump's biggest problem is that when COVID hit and things started going wrong, he really didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to come up with a plan. And what he did was turn into a petulant child. At that point, name calling and finger pointing isn't going to work. People are looking to you for a plan. You really didn't have a plan, and it caused everything to kind of crash.
That's a fair point, but Jeff, help me out here, because I keep going back to my point. When Trump was president, let's look at how the economy was. Our borders were secure. We weren't getting into unnecessary wars. African American and Hispanic employment rate was at record lows. So maybe we didn't like Trump's personality, but you don't elect someone based on their personality. You elect them based on their policies. So why all the hate towards Trump, and why all of this favor towards DeSantis as we turn towards 2024?
Governor DeSantis bucked the national trend on COVID policy, was creative, did things in a unique way, and as Fernando said, kept his economy humming along while the national economy was in the ditch. Now, when I think of President Trump, I think a lot of Americans liked the policies. I think that they got tired of the petulant child that Fernando mentioned. With DeSantis, I think you've got a leader that's inspiring, former Navy SEAL, like Fernando said. He's hot right now. Everybody knows who he is. And the red wave that everyone predicted, it only happened in Florida. And so I think Governor DeSantis is largely responsible for that. When Trump ran the 2 previous times, he would have to pull an inside straight to win. The first time, he barely did. And he got in by 1 electoral vote margin. And with arguably lost the popular vote. And the second time around, of course, he didn't win.
Oh, I will say one thing, though, about Trump. Trump appealed to a new type of Republican Party, the working class, the forgotten man.
The Reagan Democrats.
Exactly. But I don't think this discussion would be complete without talking to you, Guidry, because you're in Florida. You know about DeSantis more than any of us do. So tell me, what do you think, DeSantis or Trump, 2024?
Trump, I think Trump is all history. I'm done with Trump. I do acknowledge that there were a lot of good things done by Trump. And in fact, being an independent, there are certain things I support more that Trump did than Biden's approach to especially foreign policy. But talking about DeSantis, I think that DeSantis is also a commons man. Even though he graduated from Harvard, I think he has 2 degrees. Look how he appears. He has this suit, but the suit is a little shoveled. He wears some kind of, like plays with it. His appearance also does not strike like regular politician who looks always, legit. He also always approachable to people. Look, when we had hurricane, I think once an hour he would have press conferences. At the same time, President Biden was really, really slacking when it comes to the...
Bottom line is this, though, okay? Trump is probably going to run in 2024. And DeSantis, if he does run, I think what's going to happen is Trump is going to win. And I think Trump is going to get the nomination. And my question to you is, if Trump gets the nomination in 2024, does he beat Biden? And I ask this because under Biden, inflation, gas prices, the border, it's all been a disaster. So who wins in 24, Jeff? I'm sorry, Fernando, let me start with you. Trump or Biden?
Biden. And nobody's going to vote for Trump again. I know I'm not going to vote for him.
Jeff?
I think if the election were held today, I think Trump would beat Biden. But, I was wrong about how the midterms were going to go in that regard. Because of all the things that you stated, gas prices, inflation, the economy in the ditch.
Idri, what do you think? Jeff's right. I don't mean to cut you off, Jeff, but I want to hear from the person who's in Florida and closer to DeSantis than I am in Georgia, you are in Utah, or Fernando is in New York.
I think neither, Adam. I don't think that we're going to see in 2024 Trump v. Biden. I think there's going to be different names. And I think DeSantis is in a better place to do that. And of course, we see that Trump has all intentions to run, and Trump actually has threatened DeSantis, saying that if they're going to have to face each other, that Trump has some kind of information on him. I think it's completely unacceptable.
Okay, that's a fair point.
And that's what I'm thinking.
It brings me to my next question, which is, I was really shocked at these midterm elections. Given the policies of Biden, the way that the economy is suffering and gas prices and inflation, I thought there would be a red wave, and I was wrong. So what is it that voters are really looking for going forward? And what do you think is going to be on their priority list in 2024, Fernando?
Voters are looking for non-extremists who aren't sitting there saying that all elections are rigged. That strikes at the heart of our democracy.
Well, can I ask you a question? We talk about this election denier concept, but the truth of the matter is, on election night, Trump was ahead. By midnight, Trump was ahead in all the battleground states, and then millions woke up the next morning to see he was suddenly behind. And there were some credible allegations that because of drop boxes, mail-in ballots, unverified signatures, ballots being mailed to dead people, that there was fraud. So can you understand the perception that there were irregularities and perhaps fraud in that election?
There wasn't fraud. That's the first thing. That we need to stop that. What ended up happening is that before the election even happened, they just changed the rules of the game. The Republicans were too stupid to figure out how to play under the new rules. They made it so that, hey, there's COVID, so we need to mail in more ballots now. So we're going to open up mail-in ballots. The Republicans, led by Trump, sat there and stated, we're not going to mail in ballots. We're going to show up and vote in numbers. Dummy, Americans don't vote.
All right, well, then
let me ask what? The minute you say you can mail in your ballot, everybody's sitting home and mailing in a ballot.
So let me ask all three of you really quickly. Jeff, did Biden really get 81 million votes?
There's no way.
Idri, 81 million votes?
Adam, I cannot answer this question without saying that Trump, I think, filed over 60 lawsuits based on the fraudulent election, and only one continued. There are so many eyes on how election is being done, and there is nothing is proven that there is fraud. I agree that there might be like 1-2 votes, but not votes to be able
A
to
very
really decide on who's
lawyerly
winning.
answer, and I would expect that from such a qualified attorney from Miami. So my final question to you all is this. What's going to happen in 2024 and why? Jeff?
Well, first of all, I want to say you can't beat something with nothing. And that's what the Republicans tried to do in this election cycle, and it got them in trouble. Now, Trump is the dominant political figure of our time. It doesn't mean he's the most popular. It doesn't mean he's the most liked. Clearly, he is not. But he is the one that makes news. That is the biggest hurdle DeSantis has to get over, is how does he start stealing some of the light in the room from Trump? Because in the Republican Party base, Trump is still very popular. So he may be able to win an election in the party. Can he win the election nationally? I don't know. I think that's tough. And so I think DeSantis ultimately beats Trump. He makes that case, and he'll give a clear plan for how he's going to bring the economy back from the dead.
A fair point. Guidry, I'm going to go to you next. And Fernando, I'm going to give you the last word. Guidry.
Adam, I think a lot of things to be decided. Trying to predict what's going to happen in 2024 is like reading from the tea leaves. One thing is clear, that we really need to monitor and to see how the Republican Party is going to treat Donald Trump. Because even if Donald Trump decides to run, it is very important to see what his allies, Republican allies such as Lindsey Graham, going to do. If they're going to support him when he's going to be in their state giving a speech or rally for his reelection, or they're going to say nothing. And I think that will show also a lot if DeSantis is going to be picked over Trump. I think Trump is old news.
Thank you very much. Wrap it up for us, Fernando.
Right now, if Trump and DeSantis ran against each other, DeSantis wins. He is the darling of the party at this moment. Who the darling of the party in 2024 is going to be? Nobody knows. There's a dark horse somewhere. We just don't know who it is. Trump's light is starting to dim, starting with the New York Post, who had a front page news that Trump cost the Republicans the election. The New York Post is owned and run by Fox News Corp. Fox News Corp is starting to turn against Trump. His base is going to start to turn against Trump.
Well, I
Once
think
that happens, even if he decides to run, he's going to lose.
Well, I think you make a great point. And I think one thing you said, there might be a dark horse in 2024. Stay tuned, because we'll be discussing this on future episodes. But to our distinguished panel, thank you for the excellent discussion, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Good night. All right, so let's turn to our hot take for the day, which is particularly appropriate given that Thanksgiving is coming up. I'd like to know, what's more delicious, dark meat or white meat? Fernando, take us away.
That's easy. White meat. It's soft. It's succulent. It has the skin that gets all crispy and has all the seasoning. There's nothing better than a nice piece of breast that you can dip into your mashed potatoes and gravy and then scoop some sweet potato on top of it. I don't know how anybody can go any other way.
I like that answer, and I don't think I'm going to ask Jeff or Guidry because I think that's sufficient to end the show. But I guess out of courtesy, I will. Jeff?
Well, if you remember that movie, The Christmas Story, there's that kid named Ralphie and his dad he describes as a turkey junkie. I'm kind of a turkey junkie. I love the white and the dark. They give you two different eating experiences. Now, I like the white meat with cranberry sauce. I think it helps to moisten it a little bit because the white meat can be a little bit dry. The dark meat has a little bit more fat. And I think thus a little bit more flavor. But I love both. I can't really choose.
Fernando, do you think we should ask Guidry or just end it here?
Sure. I like Guidry.
Okay, Guidry, go ahead.
That's so nice of you. I appreciate it. You know what? I will be very, very short. Why to limit yourself if you could have both? Play and expand your palette and play with all the flavors that Jeff and Fernando mentioned and add your own. Why not? It's Thanksgiving.
Great answers. I guess we'll let the audience decide. Thank you and good night.